So, with AFCON being only a few days away, I decided that it's time for me to give my full, unbiased, group stage predictions. AFCON is a tournament that I call good for the soul. Whether it be insane goals, questionable moments,
for the Warriors to get a little touch in here. Bit of a wild clearance.
The crowd, he couldn't hear his
or even straight up corruption.
وكرة ترجع للمنتخب 85 دقيقة. يا حبيبي يا حبيبي يا حبيبي يا حبيبي يا ماما أفريقيا يا حبيبي يا ماما أفريقيا.
AFCON has it all, and I implore each and every one of you to watch it. Now, having removed all outside bias, I want to welcome you to the ultimate, definitive, Habibi approved AFCON group stage predictions. As with all of international tournament football, we start with Group A. Group A is a group with a strong gulf in class. You have the host nation, Morocco. You have the ever strong Mali, the 2012 winners, Zambia, and Comoros. Starting off with who I think is not making out of the group, it's very tough, and it's Comoros. Comoros is making just their second AFCON appearance after previously beating Ghana in 2021. With no Ghana in their group and no Ghana in this tournament, I'm going to find it hard for Comoros to pick up any points. Don't get me wrong, Comoros have a very solid team, which they've previously displayed in a 1-0 victory to However, having to face Mali and the ever-strong host nation Morocco will definitely prove to be too much for them. Key match day for Comoros will be that game week 2 matchup versus Zambia, where they could potentially cause a huge upset and go through as one of the best third place teams. Third place in Group A, I have Zambia. Having previously won AFCON, Zambia's golden generation has been on a slow decline into a team that is not the force that it once was. Having to go against Morocco again after competing against them in World Cup qualifiers is not something that Zambia is going to be looking forward to, given their poor run of form against the Atlas Lions. The Green Eagles will look to ride their history to be competitive in this group. However, with two of Africa's current giants in Morocco and Mali also in their group, that game week 2 matchup against Comoros looks to be a key matchup for Zambia in order to make it out of Group A. Second place in Group A, I have Mali. To me, Mali has one of the most exciting squads at this year's tournament. They're a very solid defensive unit, having only conceded 6 goals in a very, very tough Group I in World Cup qualifiers. Mali have shown a very strong defensive resilience in games against World Cup qualified Ghana, having only lost by 1 goal in both games. When we speak about Mali, we're talking about a team that is very capable, having shown a very, very positive track record against Comoros and Zambia, who are also in their group. The only issue with Mali is that the group doesn't just have Comoros and Zambia. There's another team. My key matchup for Mali will be that game week 2 matchup against the only team that they don't have a positive record against, Morocco. In first in Group A, and to no surprise, I have the host nation Morocco. What can be said about Morocco? They have a very strong team, and most of the time they play a very attractive style of football. They have what most other nations wish they could have: a strong core of experienced players and a very strong upcoming batch of young talent. I don't see any team in this group necessarily causing them any problems, apart from Mali. The only issue now for Morocco is, can they handle the pressure of hosting the tournament? We have seen historically and even recently that hosting the AFCON comes with a lot of big advantages and a lot of pressure. With that being said, can a team that people now give the respect they earned handle this pressure, or will they crumble like Egypt in 2019? No matter what, I believe that Morocco will make it out of the group. I also expect Brahim Diaz to continue his form from AFCON qualifiers and be a major player for Morocco in these 3 group stage games. The key matchup for Morocco will be that game week 2 fixture against Mali, which I believe will be their hardest test in the group. Group B is a very interesting group, with the AFCON giants Egypt, the resurging South Africa, Angola, and Zimbabwe. In last place for Group B, I have Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe came into AFCON with pride and passion, but also a lack of sustained football at the highest competitive level. There is no lack of talent in Zimbabwe's team, but the lack of cohesion that they have compared to the other 3 teams in this group will show that they can be unraveled very quickly. A last place finish in their World Cup qualifiers group, in a group that contained Rwanda and Lesotho, also couldn't have done much good for their confidence. They can definitely cause a scare like in qualifiers against Nigeria, but in a group with this much organization, I fear that Zimbabwe will just fall short. Their key matchup is without hesitation that matchup against Angola, where a win could still give them a slim chance of making it out the group as one of the best third place teams. In third place in Group B, I have a team that I have been really impressed with, Angola. Angola are one of Africa's most underrated teams in my opinion. They are fast, physical, and technically very good. The only issue for me is that they've really struggled to translate this into a consistent run of form. Facing Egypt's discipline and South Africa's new tactical maturity will be a very hard test for them. Look, Angola can definitely take points here, especially through draws, but beating one of these 2 World Cup qualified teams is going to be a very big ask. Their path to survival in this year's AFCON is beating Zimbabwe and grinding out a draw against either South Africa or Egypt. Or hey, even both. We saw in World Cup qualifying games that this is not a team that scores a lot, having only scored 9 goals in 10 games. On the positive side though, they're also a team that doesn't concede a lot either. My key matchup for Angola is that game against Egypt, where even a single point changes everything for them. In second place in Group B, and this may be a bit of a shocker for some people, but I have Egypt. The 7-time champions remain one of the toughest teams in the tournament's history. They don't always play the prettiest brand of football, but they know how to win, and most importantly, know how to suffer defensively. The only bad thing for Egypt in this group is I believe South Africa match up extremely well against them. For me, when I watch South Africa play, I look at a team that could easily be Egypt's worst nightmare. For me, one thing that I've always noticed about Egypt is their over-reliance on their big stars. And for me, that can be an issue when they're not firing. Egypt always have a very strong identity, but this year, that ceiling might be lower than expected. My key matchup for them has to be that game against South Africa, where the winner, in my opinion, takes that top position. In first place in Group B, that leaves the Bafana Bafana South Africa taking the group. South Africa enter AFCON 2025 with arguably their strongest identity in over a decade. Under Hugo Broos, the team has become incredibly hard to break down. Matching that up with their surprisingly strong counterattacks, and you have a team that is ready to take on the big dogs in Africa. This is a team with confidence, structure, and momentum, and to me have incredible midfield and defensive cohesion that give them an edge even against Egypt. The big question is, we've seen it in World Cup qualifiers, but can they do it under AFCON pressure? Of course, with that being said, the key matchup for South Africa is that game week 2 game against Egypt, where the winner will most likely win the whole group. In Group C, we have a nice mix of established winners in Nigeria and Tunisia and strong underdogs in Tanzania and Uganda looking to enter the knockout conversation. In fourth place in Group C, it was a tough decision between 2 nations, but I have to go with Tanzania. Tanzania are making their mark in African football, slowly but surely. But this group right here may be too steep of a mountain for them at this moment. Having performed well enough in World Cup qualifiers, this is sadly a team that just lacks goals, scoring only 6 goals in 8 of those World Cup qualifier games. Despite these offensive frailties, they are a very solid unit defensively, only conceding 7 goals in those 8 games. Let's be clear, this is a team with very bright spots, but in a group with Tunisia and Nigeria, their weaknesses will be exposed. My key match day for Tanzania is that game against Uganda, where a win could give them even a sliver of hope of getting through as one of the best third place teams. Realistically, however, it is a very tough climb. Third place in Group C goes to Uganda. Uganda for me are the dark horse in this group. They are tough, resilient, and willing to fight until the final whistle. They've shown in qualifiers that they can frustrate the bigger sides, but the difference in depth and experience between them and a Tunisia or a Nigeria may keep them shy of qualifying as one of the best third place teams. With that being said, their key matchup is that game against Tanzania, which is a must win to keep their hopes alive of getting out of this group. In second in Group B, and let me make sure I've barricaded my door. I have Nigeria. When we talk about AFCON, Nigeria will always be perennial contenders. They have pace on the wings, a strong striker up front, creativity in the midfield that can unpick most defenses on a good day. My only problem with Nigeria is, will any of those good days land on any of the game weeks in this tournament? Their team is littered with star names and their depth is equally as impressive. Having failed to qualify for the World Cup, you feel that revenge is in the air for the Super Eagles. The only challenge for them is Tunisia, who are equally as impressive in a defensive manner. With that being said, of course, the key matchup for Nigeria is that game against Tunisia that will decide the pecking order at the top of the group. A classic strong attack versus strong defense game that is a must-watch for everyone. And finishing first in Group C, I have Tunisia. Tunisia entered this AFCON with purpose and style. They're strong, efficient, and have just enough attacking flair to keep most defenses at bay. Their strength, however, comes in their strong box-to-box midfield presence and even stronger defensive resilience. They control tempo, limit mistakes, and make it hard for even teams like Nigeria to dominate them. The real question for Tunisia is, can they handle the pressure? Recent results say yes, but previous AFCON appearances have left fans wondering what exactly went wrong. Again, my key matchup for Tunisia is that game against Nigeria that's going to be a battle for pride, points, and group supremacy. Group D is a group with a very interesting mix of quality with Senegal, Botswana, DR Congo, and Benin. In fourth place in Group D, I believe the weakest link is Botswana. Botswana entered this year's AFCON with hope and energy, but this group is too steep. The teams in their group are just too strong and experienced for the level that Botswana is at right now. Botswana will be likely looking to make one big performance in their key matchups against Benin and DR Congo, but realistically, avoiding fourth will be a very tall order. In third place in Group D, I have World Cup qualified DR Congo. In my opinion, the DRC have flashes of brilliance, but it's just a lack of consistency that keeps them from coming second or first in this group. They showed in their brilliant run to the World Cup that they can put it together for a group of games, and they will 100% need to continue this form for them to have the best chance of making it out of this group. Their path to the knockout stage is going to be tricky in this group, with a key match day in game week 1 against Benin being a barometer for what we can expect from the DRC in this tournament. In second place in this group, I have Benin. Benin are a very interesting outfit, having missed out on the African play-in for the World Cup playoff spot by goal difference to Nigeria. I don't have Benin topping the group, but I see them finishing second because I believe they are a lot harder to beat than the DRC. In my opinion, I have Benin having a higher chance of shocking Senegal over the DRC, which can only mean that they also finish above them. Don't be surprised if you see two shock draws against the World Cup qualified Senegal and DR Congo and a win against Botswana. My key match day for Benin is that game against DR Congo, where a win or a draw could be the difference between a strong second place or a strong third place. This leaves my Group D winners being Senegal. Senegal have to be the recognized kings of Group D. Having a strong mix of talent that plays in Europe's top leagues, this will 100% be one of the teams to watch this tournament. The only question is whether this team will feel the pressure of expectation. But let's be honest, this is a team that is used to the pressure. I don't necessarily have them losing any games in this group, but a draw to either the DRC or Benin will have this group looking very, very interesting. My key match day for Senegal will be that game against the DRC, where they will need to continue the form that they showed against them in the World Cup qualifier matches. Group E is what I like to call the group of Tunisia's nightmares, with Burkina Faso and Equatorial Guinea both having haunted me for years. Algeria and Sudan are also in this group, with very, very different fortunes awaiting the both of them. In fourth place in Group E, I have Sudan. Sudan are returning to the AFCON stage with pride, but to me, they are facing one of the toughest uphill battles in this tournament. Major concerns that we have when we speak of the Sudanese national team are the depth and experience that they have. And given a group with AFCON powerhouses, this is a group that will be extremely tough for them to make an impact in. My key match days for Sudan are those games against Burkina Faso and Equatorial Guinea, where they will have their highest chance of making an impact. Most likely, however, they will be going home early. In third place in Group E, I've gone with Equatorial Guinea. This is a team that have always kept me up at night. Every time they've faced Tunisia, they've always seemed to have their number. Unfortunately for them, they're facing Algeria. Equatorial Guinea have always had the potential for upsets. However, this is a team that has aged a lot, with their star striker Emilio Nsue not being that same player that he was 2 years ago. My key matchup for the Red Devils will be that game against Algeria, where they will look to upset another North African nation in their pursuit of going forward in this tournament. In second place in Group E, I've gone with Algeria. To many, Algeria enter Group E as the strong group favorites. They have a mix of strong experience on the wings and young rising talent that will make them very hard to beat. My only issue with Algeria is how they shape up defensively. In a relatively easy World Cup qualifying group, Algeria shipped 8 goals and also lost to Guinea. Because of this, I'm not sure that they will be able to handle the pressure of their fans, especially if things start to go wrong. For me, the real test for Algeria will come in their key matchup against Burkina Faso, where they will look to absorb pressure and hit Algeria on the counterattack. This is where we will see how strong the Algerian defense really is. In first place, in Group E, I have Burkina Faso. This is a team that used to cause me so many nightmares. Fast and deadly on the counterattack, Burkina Faso were a force to be reckoned with. Sadly for my nightmares, they seem to be the exact team, if not better. Burkina Faso are a very solid team that scores goals. While sharing a World Cup qualifier group with Egypt, Burkina Faso outscored them, showing that they have a true knack for finding the back of the net. Their battle for first place definitely lies in their key matchup against Algeria, where I see them outscoring their opponents in what will likely be an all-time classic. Finally, we have Group F, which I believe is the true group of death in this tournament. In my opinion, this is the hardest group to predict, with teams like Côte d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Gabon, and Mozambique all feeling that they can progress to the later stages. In last place in Group F, and I really feel bad because I like them so much, I have Mozambique. When we talk about Mozambique, they just don't have the quality that the other teams have. Take it from me, they are a very fun team to watch, but compared to the other teams in this group, they sadly lack the defensive acumen to compete. Conceding 17 goals in World Cup qualifiers really showed to me that for Mozambique to take that next step, they need to tactically shore themselves up defensively. For me, their key matchup will be in their game against Cameroon, who don't nearly score as much as the other two in the group. In third place in Group F, I have Cameroon. This is one of those teams that have the names, but to me have almost lost their footballing identity. Having a player like Brian Mbeumo will always make you dangerous, but failing to qualify for the World Cup twice really shows that this team in its current form crumbles under pressure. I don't necessarily have them finishing third with losses, but to me, they have the highest potential of finishing 3 games with 3 draws. For me, their key matchup will be their game against Gabon as they fight for second place and furtherance in this tournament. In second place in Group F, I have Gabon. Gabon is a team that I have been super impressed with recently. Having failed to qualify to the World Cup by 1 point, this will be a team that will be looking to exact revenge on Côte d'Ivoire. They have a very interesting group of players led by an in-form Aubameyang, who is currently Ligue 1's top assister and the second best player in MLS in Denis Bouanga, who is a player that I very much admire. This is a team that is super interesting and fun to watch, as they are a team that will either live or die by their goals. The only reason I can't put them in first in this group is because Côte d'Ivoire have shown us in World Cup qualifiers that they are capable of shutting down Gabon's strong attack. For me, their key matchup will be that game against Côte d'Ivoire in a fight for first place, where they will also need to be on their A game in order to break the Elephants' strong defense. In first place in Group F, and to no surprise, I have Côte d'Ivoire. This is a team that is so strong defensively that you forget that they score so many goals. With a goal difference of 25 in World Cup qualifiers, they have the highest, while also being the second ever nation to qualify for the World Cup without conceding a goal. After being how AFCON is such an unpredictable tournament, I would have loved to give Gabon the edge over Côte d'Ivoire, but you just can't, considering how strong this team is. Les Éléphants are one of my favorites to win the whole tournament this year and join an exclusive list of back-to-back AFCON winners. For me, the key matchup for Côte d'Ivoire will be that game against Gabon, where they will need to continue the form that they showed in World Cup qualifiers in order to show their dominance in this group. And that's all the groups. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments if there are any teams that I'm sleeping on or anything that you think I got severely wrong in the groups. If you like this kind of content, be sure to subscribe and like the video to let me know to make more football content. As always, it's been an absolute honor and privilege to speak to you guys. I love you all, and I'll see you on the next one.